This is the Reflector Reflections podcast. My name is Annie. Join me as we journey around the world, talking with fellow human design enthusiasts, specifically reflectors, as they experiment and navigate their unique design. Today's beautiful conversation is with Jillian. Jillian is a 5-2 reflector with the Cross of Indentification. She's also a yoga therapist and soul purpose coach within her business, Purposefully Aligned. She's coming to us today from Canada. Welcome, beautiful soul.
Thank you, Annie. I'm really excited to be here and honored to be on your show.
Thank you so much. As we do, we want to talk about you. I want to hear all about you. How did you find human design or human design find you?
Yeah. I thought about this question because I've listened to your podcast, and so I knew you were going to ask me that. um, Human design found me first through my neighbor. So my neighbor is very, very much so into astrology, and I've dabbled in all things spiritual. I think my entire life. I say I think because I also have very short-term memory. I don't know if that's a reflector feature, but it just like seems to be I don't have a lot of concept of time or memories. So take that for what it is, whatever. So she brought this over and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're a reflector. Look at this website." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I looked it up and it was like no definition, no authority, no this, no that, wait a lunar cycle. And I was like, "Great. Like what does this all mean?" Like it means nothing. So I just like it was just a wash for me at that time. And I also wasn't surprised. And I find this to be interesting today, reflecting back on my experience of not only being a reflector, but just a human being on this planet. It seems like all of the little tests that I took growing up, whether it be like a Myers-Briggs or a whatever personality test or this or that, it always ended up with me being like, you're so unique, you're less than 1%, or like whatever these things were. And so it wasn't new to me. And I also just assumed that everybody had that experience. And, like if that was always my experience, that must be everybody else's experience. And so I didn't put any thought into it. I didn't put any like, oh, special me into it for over 2 years after that. And then it was through this course that I took to become a soul purpose coach, which I now actually coach within the institute. And it's just like my life's dream doing. There was a section on human design in that. And so I was like, okay, I get to study actually what this means a little bit more. And then it all started to fall into place and it all was like, whoa, what a permission slip. And so once I experienced that, then it kind of like the books opened, my mind opened, my heart opened, like everything was like, I need to know more about this. And
Yeah.
then on went the journey. Yeah.
I love that it's sometimes when we have to be ready. Yeah, I mean that's just life, that what's that saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible, but it's just that is so true. It's just when we're ready, it appears. And I really can feel what you're saying there about having to do like so many personality tests. I mean, I'm doing another one or have done another one recently where I'm like, what's this? Can it tell me more about myself? Which is
Yeah.
the Clifton Strengths, the Gallup. I don't know if you've heard of it. Anyway, I digress. But
Mm.
it's just this illumination because I don't know, it's just this getting to know oneself, and that's what it's all about. But we can only chew off, we can only just take little bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
But did you find as well, and sorry for putting you on the spot here, did you find that you, in hindsight, and just saying that in your 20s, would you have sort of like absorbed this? Because you just said then it took you a couple of years to even appreciate it for what it is. Me too.
Mm.
Do you
Yeah.
go back and just think,
All the time. I mean, hindsight is 2020. There's like so many things and also I am so appreciative of the experiences that I had, and learning about my human design helped them make sense to me today. So I could take those as lessons that I can move forward with in my life. The thing that's coming up for me, and also you don't need to apologize for putting me on the spot. I love being put on the spot. The thing that comes up for me often now is growing up, I have this cross of identity, whatever that really means. I'm still trying to understand that. I grew up not having an identity. I in fact took on other people's identities without even realizing that's what I was doing. You know, I realize it now that I know, and I've been able to reflect back on it. But I never felt like I was out of place as a child. I never felt I was neglected, or, you know, I grew up in a loving family. I had lots of friends. I was in the popular group. Like it was just a very, I don't want to say normal, but quote unquote normal
Yeah.
childhood. And reflecting back again, it was because, well, my best friend over here liked soccer, so I played soccer, and my friend over here was into gymnastics, so I went into gymnastics, and my friend over here was creative and liked to create art, so therefore I created art. And it's not that I inherently wanted or loved any of those things, but then I grew to love them while I was in it. And so I just, and even, you know, you asked about my 20s specifically. When I got into that kind of category of life, I was in university and um, surrounded by so many different energies, because it's like you live with 6 or 7 other people just trying to get by, right? And I also would take on the energy or some sort of um, some sort of characteristic or hobby of the people that I would date,
Yeah.
you know. And it was like I would date somebody and it's like, oh, they played guitar, so I would learn how to play guitar. And then it's like when I was done learning how to play guitar, I was also done with the relationship. And it's like sad to think back and be like, wow, like did I just use people? And I definitely did not. Like I definitely did not. And also it's like you can't help but think, it's like, what was that all for, if it wasn't for me helping to identify who I really am? And today that's my life's work, is helping other people also identify who
Yeah.
they are.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that is our story, isn't it? And I don't know about you, but when you get to this point, you're just like, was I just using them? I always felt this. I talk about it a lot, about this shame in a way. There's a shame that I'm still, I can accept it, but it's still in my body. I'm still weaving it out of just going, it's okay for you to change your mind. Um, because I think that's one of the hardest lessons that I've had to kind of accept, is that exactly what you said. I was this, I was that. Suddenly I was a triathlete. Suddenly I was a cyclist. Suddenly I'm this and that. And
Mm-hmm.
some of my closest friends will say to me, we'll see how long this sticks, you know? And you think,
Mm-hmm.
oh, why can't something stick? Because it's not
Yeah.
supposed to. So that's, yeah, it's, I love what you said when you finished, you know, getting what you needed. The relationship also ended. It's like, oh, that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, yeah,
Instead of the
yeah.
other way around.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely has its different energies that come with that. Yeah, but sticking to things for sure. Like I am multi-passionate. That's what I call myself. I'm multi-passionate. I will take a certification in anything you put in front of my face, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And do I need to finish it? No. I am a recovering perfectionist. Like I definitely went through a period of my life where everything needed to be a certain way, and I've grown exponentially through all of that, understanding that it was all fear based, right? And that's all that perfectionism is just trying to keep us safe from failing. And it's just not a way to live.
You also have that gate 16 so many times in your chart. And I'm just sitting here
Mm-hmm.
with you now going, I've got the 48, you've got the 16, and yeah, yeah, there it is. It's like, oh,
All
that's
right.
nice. Thank you. I can see that. Like it's one of those things that I look at in people's charts. It's a bit of a passion of mine of going, oh, where have they got multiple gates in
Mm,
multiple areas? Because it always shows up as a theme. And yours is 16.
16.
Ta-da! And it's just like that
Yay.
makes so much sense for
Yeah.
you. Um, talk to me about, if you don't mind sharing, of course, the 5-2. Now, I sit here as a 5-1, and when I looked at my birth time, because I'm adopted, I still to this day am constantly checking, muscle testing, just to be
Mm,
sure. But one of the things that I really needed to check was how close to the line I was to being a 5-2, or how close to the line I was being back before that, you know.
mm-hmm.
Um, it's a different experience. I have a close girlfriend of mine who's a 5-2. And even though we share that fifth line, that second line, that unconscious line, is very different. Can you share your journey about being or finding out about that profile?
Yeah. I Again, I shared a little bit already about like being a kid, and I was very extroverted. I was very social. I was very all of those things. Um, and wasn't really sure who I was all at the same time, right? And so when I learned again about human design, it did really feel like that permission slip because, five line made sense. I'm one to talk. I like to talk. And I feel like I definitely have messages to share, especially now I just turned 40. So I've had enough life experiences that I can help guide people through some of theirs. The two line, I believe, again, reflecting back on maybe university and times when I really struggled, and where I really struggled was with addiction. Um, not today, and thankfully and gratefully. But it was because I didn't have a really strong sense of self. And it was because I wasn't spending any time alone. I was always with somebody. And if I wasn't with somebody, I was calling somebody. And if I wasn't calling somebody, I was thinking about who I should call to talk to, or who I wanted to hang out with, or who I wanted to study with. Like it was always wanting, desiring, needing, I'm not sure what it was, some sort of human interaction. And to this day, I don't know if it was because I was too afraid to be alone with my thoughts, or too lonely, or too whatever it was. But I never gave being myself the time of day. And again, as I got a little bit older, and I discovered yoga and those practices and meditation, and actually just sat, like not even for very long, but sat with myself and started to let go of energy that wasn't mine, to start to process and embody thoughts that have been probably circulating in my consciousness for years without giving them like the small amount of attention that they're asking for. um I didn't realize how much I just needed to be by myself,
Mm.
and how much I started to know about myself just being alone, not even any more investigation, studying, whatever else. Like it just came as a knowing. For the past 8 years, I have worked alone. I work from home. I have built my own business now, and I do everything by myself. And I cannot ask for anything greater than that experience. I worked in offices for a while, like going through different careers, and being surrounded by people. And the more time that I spend alone in front of my computer, or behind a book, or walking, or in nature, the more at home I feel. And the other way the two line shows up. I don't know if this is related, so maybe you tell me more human design experience. I am a person. I had this revelation very recently, in fact. So I've got two young children, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. My husband is a projector. My eldest daughter is a projector, both splenic projectors. And my youngest daughter is an emotional generator. And they all are 3-5 profile lines. And so lots of interesting energy and dynamics and experimentation in this house over here. Long story short, my husband and my eldest went on a 2-week vacation. They were gone for like I said, 2 weeks, and it was just me and Jamesy at home, and we had a really beautiful time. And my husband was texting, and oh, we miss you, and we wish you were here, and this and that. Um, I found myself responding, saying I miss you too, and then also realizing that that was just a straight up lie. So this revelation that I had, and I was actually having a really emotional and hard time with this, because I was like, what the fuck? How can I not how can I not miss my husband and my beautiful daughter? Like, what is this? I actually grieved over it. I had a whole day of just like being alone and grieving over putting some bizarre or societal meaning into what it was to not miss my family. And then, of course, I ended up having the conversation with him about this, and like, I didn't actually miss you. It doesn't mean I don't love you, and whatever, you get it. Long story short, the epiphany was that I'm very present. I don't live for what could be, and I'm not living for what may be, but I'm living with what is in front of me, And I feel like that is how my line 2 shows up. Does that make sense?
Total sense. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that because I've been talking with some people over the last few months, this year mainly. Now, I've been in human design. I don't even think it's about being in human design for a period of time. I think the
Mm,
deconditioning process starts whenever we're ready for it to start, outside of knowing any form of modality. And I feel um, this. It's like you become the true observer because I've experienced exactly what you've experienced too.
mm.
And I've had to exactly what you said about going, oh my gosh, am I a sociopath?
Yeah.
Like, because
Right.
you think I'm actually a little bit void of emotion. It's I
Mhm,
know it's there, but I'm not consumed by it. I'm very much what you just said there, which is perfect. I'm living in the present. I'm living in these what I call my now moments. And when
mhm.
I'm in those now moments, I'm not caught in these over emotions or the shoulds and the woulds and the coulds, or taken, like, kind of washed away by experiences. So I've sat in this void of just going, what's wrong with me? Like, what's happening where I feel not numb, but very present.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So thank you for
yeah.
sharing that because, yeah,
Yeah, for sure. And it's like taking that experience and shifting the perception from what's wrong with me to what a gift. What a gift this is, to
yeah,
detach from things that don't matter, first of all, and energies that aren't yours to carry.
absolutely. And it is also, I feel for me, it's that growth aspect of going, I can let things go
Mhm,
really quickly. And the the voice inside the head, you should be this or you should be that, it kind of gets replaced with a who said, so it's like this strength comes up where you really start to pull these parts of your true self in and just go, this is actually. And when we talk about reflectors, I feel that that's a part of our journey. From my experience, I
mm,
feel that's a part of us, to be completely outside of object, be completely objective, to be
mhm,
completely in the moment, to spot pattern, to spot differentiation, um, and do it without clinging to anything. That's what the whole deconditioning process is about: is releasing what's not ours, so we can be
mhm.
a clear mirror. Oh, thank you. That
Yeah,
was that was good. Oh, that feels really yummy. I don't know how you feel. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes.
thanks for asking. Yeah, no, it feels liberating. Like it feels like all of a sudden I have a newfound energetic sovereignty. Like I had it before, but it just feels up leveled after just being able to be honest about that too, not only with myself, but with my partner as well.
I made a note here when you were talking earlier about that, you know, addiction. That's a
Hmm.
very common theme too. And that feeling of not knowing self, not knowing oneself through our life because we've sort of hung on to everybody else's. I just want to share as well that that's common, a common story of ours, because I feel, again, me, 5 lines to 5 lines, we can just get heretical. Hey, I love it.
Oh yeah.
Um, just I've got a friend Destiny, and it's always like when I'm with her, even though she's got the unconscious 5, it just comes out and she's like, shit, I'm actually going and blah this out. But it's
Yep.
good. Um, it's like we've always been, in a way, everybody else, that we have never had the chance throughout our childhood to really understand who we are, because no one
Hmm.
really ever sees us for who we are, as reflectors, as fifth lines. And so it's all of a sudden, when I feel, when we get to this point after addiction or after any form of abuse that we've had, we kind of sit there and go, well, who am I? The
Hmm.
old Zoolander movie, because who am I? Um,
God,
Pardon?
when he goes God,
Yeah. Well,
and it's like kind of yeah, aren't we all?
but it's like you've really got to take it back. You've got to traverse back and go. I've been saying to someone recently, got to go and pick up parts of those selves that you've kind of like abandoned
Hmm.
and bring them back in. And I,
Hmm.
I think that's a journey of the midlife woman too, you know.
Yeah.
What do you think about
definitely.
that?
And I mean, midlife or motherhood, that was a huge, huge awakening for me as well. I was speaking like just becoming a mother, the act of becoming a mother, in fact,
Yeah.
like the birthing process in itself was insane.
How old are your children again? Sorry. Well, they
4 and
were,
6, 4 and 6.
yeah, right. Okay.
Hmm.
It is a shift when I found parenting through two different lenses. So obviously, I was so young when I had my first two that I didn't know oneself at all. But then my last two, I didn't have until I was 40. So
Mm,
that was very different. It's very different to in a way know who you are and have children than to not know much about anything. You're still a kid.
right.
So I feel that that is a cracking, it's this beautiful, it's called matrescence. It's the it's the making of a mother. Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. I was just
that,
gonna say the addiction part too, like was just such an interesting time of life because I come from a family of alcoholism. That's what I'm referring to. And it started very young for me. So I actually had like a near death experience when I was 13 due to alcohol. And I giggle about it now because it's like, wow, 13? I
yeah.
think of my child being 13 and going through an experience like that, and it just crushes my heart. Um, and so I actually was sober for many years before I was even in my 20s. And then I went back in university because I was with a whole bunch of new people and new energies and new influences that I just wanted to lean into. So it was actually a very conscious choice for me to step back into that world and experience it. And so then I went through the whole thing again, of course, because it's like alcoholism is alcoholism.
Yeah.
And not that I'm sober today either. I will say I I study the program, like the 12-step program, but I call myself sober adjacent because I enjoy to have I do not think I have a problem. And anybody listening is probably like, you do. If you're saying that, you obviously do. But I'm very good at having one drink and then shutting it down. That if you're a true alcoholic, unfortunately, like that's really hard for people. So I do feel grateful that I have that wherewithal about it. And I think that also came from knowing myself deeper. Like diving into my human design chart, understanding why I am the way that I am, the gates that I have, whatever it is that gave me more of a sense of self. And it was like having that strong sense of self was like, yeah, you can partake in this socially if you want to partake in this socially. It's not going to be detrimental to anything in your life. But it took all of that shedding away of the shame and the guilt and the shoulds, right? The shoulding all over yourself, about who you're supposed to be if you are an addict, quote unquote,
Mm,
right? It's like
yeah.
like you were saying, it's like all these boxes that we put ourselves in for certain things, and it's like there's no reflector box. It doesn't exist.
No, I love that too. And speaking from experience, I went the same way. I went
Mm.
sober, completely sober, feeling in a way that it was a badge of honor. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
there was this part of me deep down that was just like, oh no. And then I think it was one Christmas, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. It's always been a tradition with my older girls and I that we'd have like a mimosa, which is a little bit of champagne and some orange juice.
Yeah.
And I've always been like, no, can't do that. I'm sober now. And it was like, fucking says, like, this is something we do. We have one little ching ching and it's our little thing. But I just really met myself head on. And I was like, this slippery slide.
Mm-hmm.
That, one becomes two, becomes three, becomes four, but to celebrate with your daughters, to have this experience, to have this little tradition, you don't need it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just nice. I feel you there. It's this strength of character that just goes, I know myself, but I also know myself that I can get caught in this. So,
Yeah. And I also
self,
know myself enough to call myself out on my shit.
yes. Yep.
Right? That's the thing that I'm the most grateful for is I can tell when I'm being a little bitch about something, or I can tell, like I'm very conscious about the way I'm responding to somebody if it's like in resentment or something like that. Like I'm very quick to be like, ha ha ha, go do
Yeah.
some work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also
I,
like we were talking about earlier, it's one of those reflector things where it's like, I was done with being sober. I was done with
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I love that. I
For
often
whatever
will,
that means, whatever
I, s-
sober means.
I say to myself, I'm onto you. I
Yeah.
literally like can sometimes even look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm onto you. You
Yeah.
know,
I see
I
you.
see what you're doing. I'm onto you.
Yeah.
And it's like this little bit of a, we try often, this is the part of the fifth line. Well, for me, mightn't be for you, but I kind of like ejected out of my own self to run around and fix everybody else, but I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't fix myself.
Right.
And that's when I get, okay, am I running around now? Am I ejecting out of self? Am out of my body to run around and fix everybody else so that I feel good and I get that validation back
Mm-hmm.
instead of going, you first, you put
Yeah.
you first.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm aware of myself when I do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Constantly I've got to fix it. And I do enjoy helping people. But if I'm sacrificing myself, that's not serving anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't
We
know.
talk about that a lot. Again, motherhood, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I think the more that I can share vulnerably, like with my clients, with my students, all of that, it just also helps them. Because I think a lot of times when we see people that we look up to, let's just say, and you visualize that they have some sort of perfect life, perfect, right? Quote unquote. Or I wish I was there, or I wish I was that, or whatever it is. And we're putting ourselves into somebody else's experience, letting them know that, hey, that person actually suffers and that person actually makes mistakes and that person actually fucks up probably more than you think and more than they're being honest with. Like I don't want that in my life. I don't want that in my career. I don't want anybody to look up to me. I want them to look at me and be like, "Wow, look at that human that is in her work and that is honest about it and that is still guiding other people even though she doesn't have it all figured out yet." Like how real and raw is that? That's beautiful. How can we be more like that?
Mm.
Right?
Do you find though that people still cast a lot of judgments that you have your shit together? Because I get that.
Oh yeah.
People just
Oh yeah.
assume. And
Yep.
that's a projection field right there. It's not always mean, but it's like, oh, we just figured that you always seem to have your stuff together. And I'm like, here I
Yeah.
am sharing all of this vulnerability. It's
Mhm.
like, really? How
Yeah.
do
Well,
you
they
see
also see
that?
what they want to see, right? Like
Right.
being that mirror, they're seeing what they want to see because it's like sometimes if that person has their shit together, then I can judge them. And in the judgment, I can feel better about myself or whatever it is that happens with people. I think that project that way. But yeah, I am quick to tell because people are like, oh my gosh, you're like running your own business and you're doing this and you're living your dream life. I'm like, I am living my dream life and and then you
Yeah.
just like vomit on them somehow because it's like nothing like the dream is it includes the shadow. A dream is a dream because we're unconscious in it. But once we bring in the consciousness, like that includes the light and the dark.
Mm,
So we got to bring it all in and honor it all.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I find in the work that especially you would do and me a little bit, people they need to hear that. They need to hear the messy, how you traverse through these challenges, what it means to actually go through spiritual hell in a way. That
Hmm.
sounds very dramatic, but you know what I mean. You got to
Yeah, well,
wade
it is.
through the shit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like that's where all the juice is, anyways. That's where it is. A lot of the work that I do with people is helping them understand that it's safe to do this work. It's safe. Like you're going to be safe in it. Um, and once you can face it head on, it's like that's when all of the realizations, the wisdom, the acceptance follows. And that's where the most growth happens. Like we're not growing if we're not challenged. If we're just going through life
Mm,
pretending that everything's perfect, then we're trapped in a cycle.
yeah. Yeah. I like to always think of it as chemical, like if you've just got water or you've just got vinegar, it's just vinegar. But once you add a little bicarb, it creates something.
Mhm.
It's like we
Mhm.
need that friction in our lives to create growth or to create the next thing. Like it's just
Right.
science. It's just
Right.
science.
It's just alchemy.
Yes,
Yes.
alchemy. Um, Talk to me about this, your family. This.
Mhm.
Talk to me about this. Talk to me about the family, like, and you now working from home and have done for years. Do you subscribe to the whole, sleep alone, be in your own space? Because we are our family, like
Mhm.
in that penta environment. I'm very
Mhm.
aware of it. How does that feel for you?
Yeah. It depends on the day. So today, for example, I have worked the majority of the day. My kids have been in daycare. I will pick them up when this is over and we'll spend the evening together. They go sleep in their beds. Me and my husband sleep in our bed, and that will be lovely. I do spend time by myself before bed. That is my routine. Once the girls are asleep, Jimmy will retreat to his space and I have my space, and that is very important to me. Just as like the closing of the day. Um, but sleeping alone only is really necessary if we've been together for extended amounts of time and I haven't had that alone time. If I worked with other people, if I worked at an office and I think I was surrounded by different energies all day long, I would probably be singing a different tune. Do I love sleeping alone? Absolutely. Do I need to? No.
Mm,
In fact, my girls are still at the age where they will get up and come and sleep with me or sleep on me, which sometimes can be anxiety ridden. But the majority of it I very much welcome.
yeah.
Going back to self-identity though, I think it's because I know who I am. Like everything feels like it's stemming from that now. Like I'm confident and grounded in that the more I know who I am, I will say this too, the more I know who I am, the more I know nothing.
Mm,
And also, I have this strong sense of self and I have really strong boundaries now. Since becoming a mother, that became like very apparent that I needed that in my life. I have boundaries with my kids, I have boundaries with my husband, they have boundaries with me. And so when it is time to sleep together, it is very welcome. They're growing up so fast.
yeah.
They're only going to come visit me in bed for so long. So I'm like, come on in, let's cuddle. And I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I do too. I really enjoy it. And we're the same. Um, I'm gifted a lot of space from people because I
Yeah.
need it. There's certain times there, truth be told, where I haven't caught that. I like to refer to it as this coil. And most of the time I can keep the coil nice, which is my
Hmm.
energy. But sometimes it winds up a little bit too tight. And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, fuck. Like it, and I don't catch it. And I'm still learning that.
Hmm.
That's me honoring that energy of going, I've just had too much people in my space. Especially when you've got my emotionals, like I've got an emotional manifesting generator who's in my space all the time. The emotionals, I think I love it. I love it. But I can get caught in that a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, than my splenic daughter, for example. She's a projector as well. I find that she's
Hmm.
quite easy to be around.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I would say that's a similar. Like I will get angry at James, my youngest daughter, quicker than I would to Lennon.
yeah.
When our charts are combined, James and I, my whole chart is activated,
Oh
which is
wow,
interesting. Yeah, so it's
wow.
it's very interesting to me. And she is just a little bundle of energy. And now she's also 4, and it's like I don't care what you say, I don't care what design you are. When you're 4, and 4 is a really tough age. Like they're just
Yeah,
coming into their own, learning how to say no, starting to talk back, starting to mock. Like she's mocking me, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then she'll be like, what are you doing? And then I laugh because it's like, wow, this is funny and cute and also disrespectful. And I like
yeah,
ask myself, like, does this matter right now? But yeah, it's a whole thing. but yeah, I am like I'm quicker to feel. I think
Yeah.
especially probably what she's feeling as well with my younger one than I am with my eldest. And the thing I noticed too about my eldest, and I think this is a projector thing, but she also feels more than I'll give you an example. Let's say she punches her sister in the face. Like, yes, I have two daughters, but yes, they enjoy wrestling and fighting.
Hmm.
So let's say she punches her sister in the face and like actually hurt her and it went beyond play and got into like anger. James will be crying because she got hit, and then Lennon is more upset than James because she hurt James or because James is upset. So I don't know if that's a projector thing. It's just something I've been very aware of. And like, she accidentally like poked her friend in the eye at daycare the other day, and the teachers were like, she had the meltdown. Like the girl was fine. It was Lennon that was so upset about this. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
So
open
maybe it's a
solar
Lennon thing, maybe
plexus.
it's a projector thing, but
Open solar plexus.
yeah,
All right. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah. I find it fascinating because many times I've tried to refute and I've often because I like to think that I'm a critical thinker. And so sometimes it's like, am I just bought into a cult? Have I bought into some bullshit that I'm trying to make
Mm-hmm,
something of? And then I see it play out in different ways. And I'm like, oh, am I projecting that? Did that actually happen? More often over the last, 5 or so years, I'm just like, I can't refute that this is not how it's playing out in my
mm-hmm,
family. Um, and so, I've just and I invited, not that I have to, but I've got a generator partner, and I've sort of like, he's not into it like I am,
mm-hmm,
but he sees it. And
mm-hmm.
so we kind of parent, well, I parent by design,
Yeah.
and I invite the projector in, and I even, in a way, I teach my son, he's a manifesting generator, but I do teach him to inform and respond at the same time. Do
Mm.
you get into that at all, or you're like, I
Yeah,
don't
I do.
know? Yeah.
I do without the language, I think because they're so young right now.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm very aware of that now that I've learned about human design and have seen it effective in action as well. I listen to Jamesy's like guttural sounds, like when she's thinking on something. I notice when Lennon will say something to James and James will immediately choose something. She's an emotional generator. And then she'll be like, okay, fine. Like that's what she says. Okay, fine. Like, and like she's changed her mind because Lennon will ask her again. And so I'm part of me is like, don't change your mind just because Lennon is telling you to or asking you to. But then I'm like, no, don't. Maybe she like legitimately changed her mind. Like she's feeling through what she wants and what she wants to do and whatever. I mean, she is just kind of a Lennon replica right now. She'll just do
Yeah.
anything that her older sister does. But I've noticed that and I speak to them differently. Like I give James options to choose from. I'll be like, do you want to wear this or do you want to wear this? And like let her respond to the options of clothes that I've picked out. And then for Lennon, it'll be like, do you want to show me what you want to wear today? And like invite her to
Yeah.
pick what it is that she wants to wear. And so things like I know it's small, but things like that have, and then like the same thing with food and same thing with activities. And that seems to be a way of communicating that I've found quite effective.
Mm.
And same with my husband, who's a projector. So I invite him into more things as well, and I'm very aware of his energies and need for alone time. So yeah, I think it's why wouldn't you? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you experiment if it's
It just
something that you think
helps.
could honor somebody else's energy too? You
And
know?
I think it, even outside of knowing human design, just in the family work that I've done here, it's, we don't have to do anything. We just sit and watch them. They'll show us how it's done. It's
Mm-hmm.
us, like it's the adults who need all the deconditioning. The kids,
Mm-hmm.
they're good. Leave
Mm-hmm.
them and they will show you. They model behavior. It's bloody fascinating. How did
Mm-hmm.
that work when, okay, I know we've been going for a bit, so, but I want to
Yeah.
ask, how did that, discovering human design, discovering your husband's a projector, and being a little bit aware? I've got the opposite, so it's a generator, and just going, oh, this makes a bit more sense, and sort of like fine tuning a little bit, just making subtle changes and how they light up. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh. How did that feel with the
Hmm.
projector? Did you start like inviting him in? Did he get more like going, oh my gosh, thank you. I don't know.
Yeah.
German.
Yeah. And the answer is, and the short answer is yes. And it was the validation part too. Like as a projector to be seen and called out for their gifts and their wisdom, like that really stuck with me. And to be perfectly honest, like we've been on a journey, my husband and I. It hasn't been easy inviting kids into our life for sure. I completely changed. No surprise there. I change every day. I always say, I'm like, well, you married a chameleon, so just get used to it.
Enjoy the ride,
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah, enjoy the ride. And so, full disclosure, there was a time where I was a little bit resentful because I would be giving the validation. I'd be providing him with the things that I thought he needed as a projector specifically, and they weren't working, quote unquote. They weren't working. But what does that mean? Well, I wasn't getting what I needed. But guess what? I wasn't asking for what I needed. So it was this whole thing where I was stuck in my own mind a lot, and my own doing my own shadow work and my own everything, and I'd be treating him like a projector and inviting him in and validating and offering these like beautiful words and calling him out on the nice things that he did, and um with an expectation attached to it that I was going to get treated like a reflector, and he didn't know what that meant. That's not fair for me to expect anything, really. Something I talk about a lot now, and teach a lot about now, and it took me a while, obviously, to really hone in on this in my own life, is selfless service, where it's like, why are we doing things? Why do we do anything in life? And if we're doing things for the outcome, or for an expectation of an outcome, we're doing it wrong, right? Like we're here to serve because we want to serve. And the service itself is validating and fulfilling and nourishing, not to do something in return for. And like this is a very yogic philosophical concept. Dharma, service, soul purpose, this whole thing that I do for a living now. It took me a long time to kind of release, I think, my need for, maybe not release it, but just acknowledge that I also wanted to be thanked and seen and validated for who I was as a human being, and for all the effort that I was putting into not only my work, my life, our partnership, the kids, like running myself fucking ragged, to what end, right? So all that to say, it's like nothing in my life even needed to change for me to feel happier. It was me that needed to change, and the way
Mm.
that I perceived things and the way that I did things. And when I figured that out, and I started like doing a lot more of my own work, now I can invite him to things, and I can validate his things, and I make sure that I'm just sending little notes and telling him something beautiful about himself, and not waiting for him to desire it. Like it's just something that I now offer, and then that in itself, makes him feel like he's really valued and
Mm.
and respected as the partner that he is and that he deserves. So it was kind of like a little ego thing that I needed to let go of, so I could really lean into that. Does that answer that question?
Totally. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I've often thought about this, again, never said it out loud. Well, I have, but I feel for those that have us as reflector partners, because at the end of the day, how can they know how to support us when we don't even know how to support ourselves?
Right.
So, what you just said then, 1000%, is just like we have to know what we want. We have to find that so that we can say, hey, this is what I need. Me, it's
Hmm.
like I need a lot of time alone. Like I come
Yeah.
in and out, I bounce in and out. Um, but you can't, I know that there's another one of those annoying sayings coming. You can't give from an empty cup. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. No.
it's true. You have to get to
It's,
know who the fuck you are. And it's
yeah.
just like, well, how do we find that? Well, you have to take time. It
Hmm.
just takes time to just go, well, these are my needs.
Hmm.
But I often also feel, just when you were saying there, it must be, I've got a couple of friends who are reflectors with projector partners. They can't guide us. I don't feel, I think it's too close to home. that I
Mhm.
can't, and it must be frustrating in a way for them that just go, oh, I just can't get in there. I can't, because we're very like, nah, nope. Mm-mm.
Mhm.
And they probably just go, and they feel a little bit like, I don't know, I can't even imagine, but in my mind, I can see this play out where they don't get to guide us like they can other people. It's like,
Right.
and so that's very hard for them
It's
because,
so hard. It's so hard for them. You know, Jimmy, that's my husband's name. He is brilliant. He's brilliant and he is a master at his craft. He's a mechanic and he guides a lot of people at work. He guides a lot. Like it's he has like a mental health initiative at work that he's leading and like it's just all of the stuff is brilliant. I'm giggling like it's not that funny, but poor bastard. Like he'll come home and be like, I can't even be myself in this space. Like I'm doing all this stuff at work and I come here and it's like I'm useless and it's not that. It's not, of course. It's just our energy and it's also I'm not asking for it. I'm not
yeah,
asking for your guidance and you're not asking for mine. So let's just honor each other in that. And something interesting too, and I'm curious if you had this experience, but even growing up, I don't recall a time that I've asked somebody for advice. Like, I don't know if that's me being super fucking close-minded or just like so in my experience, again, like just being present or whatever it is, but I do not know when I have said to somebody, "Can you tell me what to do here?" or "What would be the best approach?" or like, especially my parents, whom I love. Not one time have I asked them for advice.
yeah. I have asked people. Um, to be honest, 9 times out of 10, I take that advice and throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
I think it just, now that I know me a bit more, it's every time I sort of say, "Oh, I just don't know. Can you help me decide?" And then they say something. What actually happens is then I have an opportunity to be able to soundboard out what I already knew myself. So
Mhm.
my
Yes.
my partner has learnt this very quickly. He'll just go, righto, she needs to just, and he might say something to prompt me, and then I'm like, blah, 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 and I'm like, good, thanks, and off
Yeah,
I
yeah,
go.
got it. Yeah.
I know. So, but I do value people's insights. So there's a
Yes, so much
difference
so,
there.
and their perspectives.
Yes, I
I'd
have some
prefer to have a
beautiful.
conversation like this, like we're doing,
Yeah,
than outright ask somebody like, "What should I do?" or "What do you think?"
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'll ask them what they think, of course, because that is the perspective, but
yeah.
it's just like an interesting little reflection I'm having.
My experience with the reflector is, I might butcher it by saying this, so I'm going to try and get it out. I find that sometimes I get caught up here because I don't have that channel to be able to pull it out and get it out of my throat. Um, but it's like we've already traversed decisions. So even though they say we're the slowest,
Mhm,
we've got to wait a lunar cycle, I feel that we've already been initiated in a lot of things. And so it's just sitting there. We already have felt it. We're already experiencing it. It just takes us a little bit of time to get it out. So when we hit a point in time or we need to have a chat like we are, or whatever's
mhm.
going on, it's like, oh yeah, that's already dropped in. That dropped in months ago, or that dropped in
Right.
weeks ago or days ago. But now I have the energy to be able to get it out.
Yeah,
That's probably a terrible way of explaining it, but I feel like it's already there because we've already sampled it. We've already experienced it.
sure.
It's just
Yeah.
now coming out through the physical body. Don't know.
Yeah, I never feel the need to talk about something immediately either. Like if I start getting an idea or a concept or some download, like I will, like it will just naturally sit in my subconscious, I think, for a while
Yeah.
before it feels and usually it's somebody else that draws it out of me too. And then I'll
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, funny enough, I've been thinking about this for X amount of time. Maybe this was the reason why." You know, this happens with the clients a lot. Like I'll get ideas or some sort of solution to something and I'll be like, I don't even know what that's for. And then like weeks later, a client will bring it up, will be like, aha, that's
That's
what
it.
that's for.
Yeah. And I love
Yeah.
that. That is exactly the wording. It's just like it's the energy meets our energy, or that whatever happens at the right time, and then it can be expressed. And I think
Hmm.
that's often why reflectors can come in, um, and we can say too much too quickly, and they're not ready for it. They need to draw it out of us. So there's this waiting period.
Yeah.
The wise sages in the back of the village. We
Right.
already know it, But until you
2
come to
lines
us,
in the cave. Yeah.
yeah, until you come to us, then it's not ready to be heard. Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like that.
that, so much that, for sure. When I did my yoga teacher training, the over a decade ago now, I remember having so many awakenings. I was just like, "Oh, this and that and this. I can't wait to share this. I can't wait to share this with people." I went back to my job. At that time, I was working in a remote camp in northern Canada, where it was majority males, and I started a yoga program up there. And so I was teaching yoga once a week, and it was amazing. It was brilliant, and I just got to teach and share and do whatever I wanted in front of this class, and I got such good feedback. And also, I would get in front of people and be like judging, like just straight up judging them on, like they'd have some sort of issue that they were going through, and I'd be like, "Well, let me tell you about," and just like unleash some sort of amazing concept, like aha moment or awakening that I experienced, expecting that they were going to experience the same
Yeah.
thing. They never asked for it. They didn't ask for my help. No one's asking to be, awakened. And I was just like I felt like it was my job to tell everybody else how to live. Ugh, what a lesson that all was too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Especially coming back from like a yoga teacher training where you do so much shedding of self and this and that, and then I was just like right back in my ego. Yeah,
I've experienced that too. It's like that whole, I'll tell you, I'll go in there and just like, here you go, have a look at this. And they're like,
yeah, yeah,
they're just like, in a way, bleeding out on the floor. And you're like, why?
yeah,
What's wrong? I told you the truth. It's like,
yeah,
you're not ready for the truth.
yeah,
Just calm
exactly.
down, fifth lines. Just shut
Yeah.
it. Zip. That's the hardest
Exactly.
lesson, isn't it? To just go, I know, I feel, I see, but it's not my place. I have to walk
Yeah,
away. The
yeah.
hardest lesson.
Well,
Walk
and
away.
speaking of energetic sovereignty, like I've learned this about myself now, like the more I've worked on it in the last 10 years. And even if I know, as soon as I know something, I tell myself I equally don't know.
Yeah.
And then that keeps me until it's invited out.
Oh, that's
Or
good. I like that.
I feel like the time is right or whatever it is. Yeah. I am very grateful for that um awareness now.
Yeah, that's thank you. I'm going to use that just when I have these moments and I'm like, what you know nothing, Jon Snow. You know nothing. Oh, thank you so much for this chat. Please share with this little community of ours how people can work with you, what you specialize in. Just have a
Yeah.
little Jillian moment.
A Jillian moment. Thank you for that. This conversation has been beautiful. You're very easy to speak with. I know I forget that I am recording a podcast with you. I have a little YouTube channel that I've been working on that I'm super proud of. It's very mediocre, and I'm making it mediocre intentionally because I know that if I get back into my perfectionism, that I won't publish anything. So I designed a journal. It's called Purposefully Plan, in line with my company Purposefully Align. And I use this journal in the YouTube videos. And I love it. I think it's a really beautiful place for me to just share some insights that I'm having or whatever. And so you can find me on YouTube. Just search my name, Jillian McKenzie. You probably have to search really hard. Like even like my friends can't find me. It's that new. Other than that, I have a website, purposefullyaligned.com, and I shared my Instagram with you. It's at Jill the Dharma Coach, but I'm not very active on social media. I do not like it. I like to go on there and share other people's funny reels and funny memes. That I feel is my contribution to social media, and beyond that, I'm not doing anything. It's not for me. So there's those two things, and yeah, and like I was mentioning, I'm a teacher, a master coach at the Highest Self Institute, where we actually coach and train spiritual life coaches and embodiment coaches, and that's just such a beautiful, beautiful space of like-minded individuals that come together. So those those things,
That's beautiful. I remember
yeah.
a couple of years ago looking to do embodiment coach training through, is that Dharma? That's the Dharma
Dharma Coaching
Dharma
Institute, yeah.
Institute.
We
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we rebranded to Highest Self Institute lately. So
Yeah.
that's what the overarching company is called now. Dharma Coaching Institute is our 6-month training program, and then we have other Soul Business Mastery 3-month program that I lead with the founders, and our embodiment coaching certification, which we're actually kind of midway through one of our certifications right now, and it's just like as heartwarming as it is, it's also very
Yeah.
heart opening and heartbreaking. Embodiment work is everything, especially I think as a reflector. Because earlier you brought up, you're like, it's not that I feel numb, it's I'm not sure what I feel, and I think allowing ourselves to explore that, and also allowing ourselves to feel numb, because feeling numb is also a feeling, and to me it's just like a feeling of neutrality. And when
Mm.
I experience that neutrality, I know that I am home, because I'm not taking in energy from anybody else's aura or anybody else that's trying to project into me. It's like when I'm feeling neutral, it's like, whew, I'm clean.
I love that. That's a snippet right there. That was like, whoo, there it is. There it is.
There it is.
There it
Yeah.
is.
Oh, Annie, this is such a pleasure. Thank
Thank
you.
you. It is.
Uh,
It's always good fun, isn't it? It's just so
Yeah.
healing and hearty to just sit in space and just have conversations and see where they go. And oh, I
Hmm.
love it. Freaking love it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the beautiful
Yeah.
people I get to meet, such as yourself,
Yeah. Thank
and
you.
meet, not just see, as you said, like not, you don't just see their highlight reel. You're actually sitting and having a chat with them. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a beautiful thing. Thank you
Yeah.
so very much.
Yeah. We all have so much to learn from one another. It's just like an endless journey.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you go get your babies. I will
Yay.
start my day. I've got soccer. I've got soccer mum duties now. So I'm out the door. This is real life,
Amazing.
man.
Yep. Back to real life. Back
Back
to
to real
reality.
life. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Take care.
Enjoy. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.